Okay, so now, final thing I wanted to talk with you about here, Crystal. So in the UK, they just made a pretty bold move. So Rishi, how do you pronounce this guy's name?
Rishi Sunak.
Sunak or Sunak?
Sunak, I think.
Sunak, okay. Rishi Sunak. He unveiled a crackdown on smoking and potentially vaping as well. In this article I have in front of me in the Daily Mail, they use vaping. And so basically the idea is kids aged 14 and under will never be able to buy cigarettes under this new ban. So it's almost like a phased-in ban over time, and they discriminate based on age.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what they say. Rishi Sunak today unveiled bold plans to stamp out the child vaping epidemic and ban kids 14 and under from ever legally being able to buy cigarettes. The proposed law will I can talk, I promise. The proposed law... Oh, that's why. There's a typo in here. It's not even my fault. It's the fault of the article. Jesus Christ. The proposed law will annually raise the age of legal purchase of tobacco from the current 18 by 1 additional year every 12 months.
Okay.
So you understand how that works?
Yeah.
Okay. It will see England follow in the footsteps of New Zealand, which last year adopted a similar policy for everyone born after 2009. Under the Prime Minister's proposed plan, the government will stick to the same age threshold. Think tanks and smoking rights groups reacted with anger to the ban, labeling it as, I like this because it's so contradictory, hideously illiberal and unconservative. It's like, wait, what? Illiberal and unconservative. So you're saying it's not liberal and it's not conservative. Anyway, the PM also announced a crackdown on vaping amongst children, promising to look at banning child-friendly flavors.
Okay.
Child-friendly flavors. And packaging that encourages kids to pick up the habit. Disposable devices are also on the firing line. I think that one's more for like environmental reasons, less so about,
health.
Yeah. He announced the move during a speech at the Conservative Party conference in Manchester, and he acknowledged it was a difficult decision to make, but he said it was the right decision to break the cycle of smoking addiction. Quote, if we are able to do the right thing for our kids, we must try and stop teenagers taking up cigarettes in the first place. 4 in 5 smokers started by the time they were 20. Later, the vast majority tried to quit but failed because they're addicted. I propose we raise the smoking age by 1 year every year. That means a 14-year-old today will never legally will be sold a cigarette, and their generation will grow up smoke-free. And then he goes on to point out that, like, hey, man, look, we get it that it's very difficult whenever you come to a decision that, like, you want to restrict freedom. So I don't take this decision lightly, but nevertheless, it's the decision that I'm going to make. So he literally brought up freedom to sort of, like, swat it aside. And then a YouGov survey last year showed 57% of Brits supported the progressive age-based ban. I think that is very different from our country.
Yeah, I think we would have a really negative reaction against it.
That is very different from our country.
Yeah.
So let me just ask you up, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, listen, I think drugs should be legalized. So obviously I think a complete ban on cigarettes or vaping or whatever is way too far. I mean, I think adults should be able to make decisions for themselves. I don't think they should be manipulated. Like, I'm fine with, bans on advertising, especially advertising to kids. I'm more open to some of the flavor thing. I think we've had debates about that before. I'm more open to some of those things, but just an outright ban? No, of course I don't support that.
Yeah, I agree with you. There actually is a middle ground. It's not so black and white. You know what I mean? And the middle ground is, like you pointed out, okay, you're banned from doing ads on TV.
Right.
You
can't have ads in schools and like around playgrounds or whatever. Yeah.
And I'm even open to the idea of, like, look, this stuff is going to be legal, but we're going to do health and safety regulations that might change a little bit the nature of what you're having. So if there's like some sort of a vape product or whatever that it's like 10% nicotine, which is very high percentage of nicotine, it's like, no, we're going to cap it at 5. Like, I'm okay with that.
And it's got to be like, everything's got to be really disclosed and regulated so people actually know about the health impacts. I'm fine with like public education campaigns. I'm fine with taxes that make it more expensive even.
100% agree. So there is a middle ground.
Yeah.
The middle ground is like, look, we're all going to acknowledge, because we're not idiots, that the smoking is really not good for you. And there's all these rules around. You can only have X amount of nicotine, which, by the way, nicotine isn't even really a problem in cigarettes. There's like 300 other carcinogens. It's ridiculous, but like limit the types of, and then like if there was cyanide in cigarettes, everybody would be like, can you get that part? You know what I'm saying? Can you get that out?
Yeah.
But if it's something that kills you over 50 years, it's like, well, that's fine. No, I get the idea of like sort of limiting the damage by doing health regulations, but still effectively having it legal. And this is not that. And I think what drives me crazy about this is like, I hate it when governments are like, they act like I'm going to be very altruistic towards you and I'm going to help you. How? By telling you don't do that thing. It's like, no, if you're the government, like provide something. Don't take away. You provide something. Now in the UK, of course, they have universal health care, so it's a little bit of a different conversation, right?
True.
But like in my mind, it's like, oh, really? You want to help me? Okay, well, cut me a UBI check of $1,000 a month or whatever it is. Not like, I'm going to help you. Here, let me take that away. I'm not allowed to have this.
Right.
It's very like paternalistic. It's very like smug and condescending and arrogant. And it's like, even if you're right on the substance that this thing is not good, do people know that? It's like they know that. They're like, yeah, I know it's not good, but I'm choosing to. In the same way, alcohol is way worse than most of the things that we try to ban or regulate. Right?
There's this whole also in the American right. I can't speak specifically to Rishi Sunak's ideology very adequately, but in the American right, there's this whole thing about like concern for the children, right? Around like trans issues and about video games and social media and whatever. And yet you're going to just let the child tax credit expire.
Right.
You know, and yet even after, remember there was this like minute of conversation after Roe was overturned where it's like, oh, now conservatives are going to have to make good on their promises about like taking care of children. Please. None of that. None of that. So yeah, it's all, they're very comfortable with the like authoritarian solutions.
Yes.
Of, let me ban, let me lock down. You're not going to be allowed to be on TikTok or social media. Like there are a lot of states right now, Republican states, that are experimenting with absolute lockdowns on social media for kids below a certain age. So they're comfortable with that. Not so much interested in like, let me make sure that your family isn't starving so that you can have a nutritious meal and that your schools are funded so that you get a good education. Not so much interested in that.
Exactly. It's like the shortcut to feel-goodism, you know? Like, I did something good by stopping you from doing something.
Right.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that.
The last point I would make is the things that you were talking about, some of which have been implemented in the U.S. in terms of like health regulations and whatever around cigarettes. Like, it's worked. Youth
Very
smoking
successful.
Has dramatically declined. Now, vaping might be another thing.
Well,
but youth smoking
is
youth cigarettes are cigarette use is way down from when I was a teenager, from when you were a teenager. So it's not like these things don't work. They actually do.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be a crackdown at some point on vaping. And I think what they'll do is a similar path where it's like, just get rid of all the fruity flavors, you know, and then eventually it's like even get rid of all the mint and the menthol flavors. Eventually it'll just be like some horrendous like tobacco flavored thing that tastes like somebody's grandpa's ass cheek.
Are you still gonna vape with grandpa's ass cheek?
Yes.
It's not gonna
yes,
stop
I
you.
will. Grandpa, bring him over here.